Okay.
But this
I'll
isn't
make the
right the way
motion.
she's got it. She's fixing it.
Okay. I think we can proceed while she's fixing it.
Okay.
I'm going to have to go back and fix it later. I'm writing your
Okay.
motion now.
Okay.
What's your new motion?
Okay.
So the motion is to continue the longevity steps, approval of the longevity steps.
To continue?
Are you making that motion?
Yes,
Okay.
I'll make
There's
the
a
motion.
motion to continue the longevity steps.
The 5% increase.
Okay.
So I'm going to
Is there a
second,
sec-
I
and there-
assume.
And there's a second discussion?
Yeah,
Okay.
if I may, a clarification about the motion is to accept longevity steps and continue them, or you want further discussion and information?
Discussion. Further discussion to come back to the board with more information.
Right,
Right.
thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the clarification.
Okay. And bring it back to when? 2 meetings?
August, you want to, or do you want to shoot for July?
Given what's going on between now and then, I think.
Okay, August, to continue till August to come back to the board.
Okay. Is there a second to that motion? Was that you?
Yes.
Okay. Further discussion? Questions? Roll call vote?
Specifying the closed session in the motion, that it would be done in closed session? That the Board of Trustees further consider the longevity steps in a
Yes,
closed
let's do it in
session
closed session.
at a future meeting?
That's assuming that's, I'm assuming it's a closed session eligible.
It would be.
It is.
Right.
It would
Yeah.
be.
Okay.
Okay. Who made the motion?
I did.
Sunny?
Right.
And
Se-
second?
Baxter?
I did.
Baxter.
Baxter.
It's been moved and seconded to continue the issue of longevity steps until the meeting in October in closed session.
I thought it was August.
I'm sorry,
August.
August.
Okay, I did not have that. Hold on. At the August.
Got it?
Okay.
Okay.
I'm ready to take the vote.
Yes. Roll call vote?
Aye. Baxter?
Aye.
Jeff Kellogg?
Aye.
Doug Otto?
Aye.
And Sunny Zia?
Aye.
Carries unanimously. Moving on to Section 8, Student Support Services, 8.1, revised 2017-2018 academic calendar. This is an action item. It's recommended that the Board of Trustees approve the revised 2017-2018 academic calendar as submitted. The proposed change was agreed upon by all constituent groups. This gives the faculty more time to implement what they learn on Flex Day. So is it motion? Moved by Trustee Archuleta. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Kellogg. Any discussion? Roll call vote?
Irma Archuleta? Aye. Virginia Baxter?
Aye.
Jeff Kellogg? Doug Otto?
Aye.
And Sunny Zia?
Aye.
9.1, the tentative budget for 2016-2017. Vice President Gable?
Yes, thank you. We'll give Myra a moment to pull up the budget. Wonderful. All right, so tonight we're going to go over the tentative budget, and as we know, this is just the first phase in our budgeting process. This budget is based upon the governor's May revise, so in September, we will be bringing back to the board the adopted budget, but this will allow us to spend money on July 1st by approving this tentative budget. So I'll be discussing what the state budget is, the board goals, the institutional priorities, the Budget Advisory Committee, that's what BAC stands for, the assumptions that they built into the budget. We'll look at our FTS history. We'll kind of give an overview of all of the district funds, and then we will move into detail related to the unrestricted general fund, as well as future budget challenges. So as far as the state budget overview goes, as I mentioned, this tentative budget is built using the assumptions in the May revise. So within that, there's $114.7 million, or 2% growth funding provided on a statewide basis. For Long Beach City College, we are budgeting 0 for growth, as we're anticipating that we are going to go into stabilization in the 15-16 year, and we will be coming out of that in 16-17. There was no COLA provided in the state budget, so we have 0 in there. There was $75 million allocated as a base increase, and so that is approximately $1.3 million for Long Beach Community College, which is built into our apportionment revenue. Molly is gone, but Molly mentioned the $200 million for the Strong Workforce Program. We have not budgeted anything for that yet. As Molly mentioned, the regional consortium is going to be determining how much is going to come to the colleges. So once we know that, probably later in the fall, we will have a budget adjustment for that program. There's $2.3 million that has been provided for the Equal Employment Opportunity Fund. This is new funding that has come through, and the state has not figured out the allocation methodology, so at this point in time, we don't have anything in our budget. As soon as the state lets us know how much money we will be receiving, again, we will bring that forward to the board for approval. There's $5 million provided for a 0 textbook cost degree. These are going to be competitive grants that the colleges will have to apply for. At this point in time, no decision has been made on whether or not we're going to apply, so we're not showing any of that in our budget. $219.4 million for deferred maintenance and instructional equipment with no match requirement. This is in our budget, so we're estimating $3.9 million. $3.4 million of that will be for scheduled maintenance, and earlier tonight you saw Mr. Wooten gave the detail of the projects that we'll be spending on for scheduled maintenance. And then $500,000 of that will be allocated for instructional equipment. This amount is what's in the May revise. The budget that was just signed by the governor today has decreased that total amount. So really the total amount that will be in the adopted budget is $184 million on a statewide basis. So our allocation is going to go down. It'll probably be anywhere from 3.2 to 3.4 million, just so you know on that. Again, since there was no COLA for the unrestricted funds, there's also no COLA for the categorical programs. There is $49.3 million provided for Prop 39. That's the energy efficiency and renewable generation funding. Again, Mr. Wooten covered that in the construction update. We're planning on receiving about $857,000. And we'll be using that for lighting retrofit projects on both campuses. There was $105.5 million provided for mandated costs. These are going to be allocated on an FTES basis. We're estimating that we'll receive $1.9 million in the current fiscal year for these funds. This is a significant increase from what we had in the current year, about $9.4 million decrease from what we have. So you will see large changes in both our revenue and our expenditures by about $9.4 million as a result of that decrease in funding. There's $20 million provided for an online education initiative. Again, this is going to be competitive grants on a statewide basis with the intent that curriculum be developed that can be available for all students throughout the state and used. So if a student wants to take an online class, if one college develops it, it will be in what's called an exchange that they are developing, and the student will see it, and they can register for that through the exchange. So again, we have not made a decision on whether or not we will be applying for any of these funds or not. Yep.
So So the exchange is like a clearinghouse? So my question would be, because you get funding, you get credit for having online, so why would we be motivated to be part of that when suddenly it would take essentially money out of our pocket, for a real simplistic way, I guess, because we would be getting some FTES for some of these, but we're no longer going to get those? Is that what they're
No,
looking
it
at?
will, and it's in the developmental phase, but the idea is that you would get funding to develop the curriculum and to get the curriculum approved and put it up on the exchange. If a student saw that class and wanted to take that class, so they could be, living up in Yuba, and they saw a class that we were offering through the online education exchange, they would then register and apply and would become an LBCC student. So LBCC would get the FTES for that online course.
And these are for new online courses? So people
It's for courses that can be approved to be used within the exchange.
Okay, so colleges that have a fairly extensive online programs currently, could they just dump that entire curriculum into the exchange?
It has to be approved by the chancellor's office, but conceivably that possibly.
Okay, well, again, it's the motivation of having to offer people online, but there are colleges that are much more far ahead in this area than others.
And then the other piece of this is what they really want developed are degrees that are exclusively online. So every course that you would have to take for a degree, you could get through online. So there's kind of two parts of it.
Okay, interesting, all right.
Keep going.
Okay, so this is just a reminder that when we are developing the budget, we are looking at the board goals. So as the board, there are 4 goals that the board developed last summer for us to focus on. That's continuing to support the student success agenda. The second one, high level, is continuing to support the career tech ed, workforce development, and economic development agendas in order to try to help strengthen the regional economy. It's to support programs to build a more collegial campus community. And then lastly, allocate resources in a manner that is consistent with the board goals. The other aspect of the planning process are the institutional priorities. And so every department develops a departmental plan, which is then synthesized into a division level plan. And then those division level plans are then synthesized into our vice president level plans. And based upon those 5 vice president level plans, the college planning committee creates an institutional priority, looking at all of those. So for the 16-17 year, the college planning committee has established the institutional priorities to focus resources in order to allow us to introduce or scale up student success innovations that are supported by data, which show promising preliminary results or demonstrated effectiveness. We want to maintain fiscal stability by acquiring and managing funding for student success initiatives and acquiring and managing funding to support equitable outcomes in an attempt to close the achievement gaps. We also want to analyze and dedicate resources that build effective organizational structures college-wide, which includes focusing resources to implement our business process reviews and design thinking vetted recommendations. And I think this is really one of the keys is you will see in the budget that we are making a significant investment in the business process reviews and design thinking with one-time funding to reinvest in our district-wide computer software system, PeopleSoft, that we are using to make it work better for us and to improve what the students see and how the students get through our processes. And then lastly, we have the supporting effective integrations of technology in the learning and work environments. So what we've done here is taken some of the high-level budget allocations that have been made, and we've indicated which of the board goals and or the institutional priorities those allocations meet. So we are hiring 25 new full-time faculty. Once we hire new faculty, we have to buy computers for those new faculty. We are restoring or creating 21 classified positions. We have a winter intersession that we are funding. We are continuing with our technology refresh and instructional equipment purchases. We created 4 new management positions. We are undergoing the business process reviews as well as the design thinking. We are continuing with the LEAD Academy. And then we have several grants that we are working with. So SBDC, that stands for the Small Business Development Center, that is continuing. We have our TACT grant. We have the Goldman Sachs 10,000 small businesses allocations that we receive. We have our Amtel Consortium, the Innovation Fund SoCal. We have the Award for Innovation in Higher Education, California Career Pathways Trust, as well as Student Equity and SSSP funding. So a lot of grant money coming through. As far as the mandated cost allocations, as we mentioned, that will be going towards scheduled maintenance projects. Some of the carryover money that wasn't spent this year that will be allocated for next year are the website design, professional development, the communication plan implementation, Title IX compliance implementation, as well as the strategic plan implementation. So moving into the Budget Advisory Committee, the budget assumptions and highlights, these are just some of the things that the Budget Advisory Committee focused on. So, you know, really the top overarching one is that there may be budget redirections in response to the state's budget, but we will redirect those funds based upon the institutional priorities developed by the College Planning Committee. Our FTES funded and total target is $20,775. That is currently the amount that we're funded at right now, so we're holding steady with that. We have built in a 0.5% deficit factor in our apportionment revenue. And then we are building into the model the total cost of ownership concept, whereby if we are purchasing something or opening something up, we're making sure that we are covering the total cost of that. So if we open up a new building, we're trying to put the support staff in that building to make sure that we have sufficient staff to support it. If we buy a new piece of equipment, we're trying to make sure that we are building in any maintenance agreement that's going to be needed for that piece of equipment moving forward. So those are just a couple of examples of what total cost of ownership would be. We have the assumption that we're going to maintain the 5.5% minimum unrestricted reserve. So that's in accordance with our board policy. Furthermore, we developed an institutional effectiveness fund balance goal that is, set at 15% for 6 years, and the short-term goal is 12.5%. So Dr. Bagg was mentioning a couple of these on the academic side when she was going over our strategic plan. This is one of the ones that we're required to develop by the Chancellor's Office related to our fund balance. So this is what the Budget Advisory Committee recommended. They took it to the College Planning Committee, who also recommended those amounts that you see there. We have reserves for load banking and vacation, which is about $2.8 million. Our major benefit cost changes included an increase in STRS by 1.85% and an increase in PERS of 2.041%. And then our retiree benefits, the ARC, the annual required contribution, increased by $2.4 million.
Does that cover all the costs that we will be, when you say those increases? Does that cover our costs?
Yes. Okay, so moving into, just to show you graphically where we've been with our FTES and where our projection is moving forward. So you see there in 10-11, that was one of the highest years where we generated 21,036 FTES. Ever since, we've been trying to get back up to that amount. We have not yet achieved that. In 14-15, we achieved the 20,775 FTES. In 15-16, as I mentioned, it's likely that we're going to go into stabilization, but we will be funded at the 20,775 FTES. So that's why we're showing that right now, and that's what we reported at P2. So when I bring the adopted budget forward in September, we will show you the actual amount of FTES that was generated. So you will see this drop down potentially by about 1,500 FTES, but we'll know better in mid-July. So then in 16-17, we will be in restoration to where we want to get back up to that 20,775 level.
Do we know we're going to have a deficit as far as FTE goes right now, that for actuals? When you say 1,500?
It's highly likely. We're in the middle of our summer session. We have not completed the FTES reports. Those are due on July 15th. So we are still capturing actual attendance from rosters that have been submitted to enrollment services. Those are still being entered. And we're still capturing the data from summer session. So it's yet to be determined. The projections that we have at this point is that we will be below. So just trying to give you guys a heads up so that you're not surprised in September when we bring the budget back.
Are we doing anything to mitigate that, or perhaps increase enrollment to make up for that deficit?
We have done a lot. We've done some marketing. Dr. Long and her team has created postcards. We are working with the counseling area to send out emails to students, looking at their ed plan and courses that they have not enrolled in, and trying to send emails to them saying, look, we have this class available and you need it on your ed plan, consider signing up. So, there are various things that we are doing. We knew that we would be going into stabilization either in 15-16 or 16-17. So it's not coming as a surprise that it is happening, because it was something that just with the economy turning around, with fewer high school students graduating, on a statewide level, it's a trend that you see throughout the state. At P2, there were 21 districts that were in stabilization. That is one of the highest numbers ever on a statewide basis. So it is a trend that we're seeing. When the economy turns around, we don't have as many students. But unfortunately, that's when the growth funding is available from the state. And so we all try to capture as much as we can.
So, by the way, I think that may have been by design. They must have figured it out as far as providing funding based on growth and in vibrant economic times. Is there anything we could do to support you and your team or staff in getting the message out? You mentioned getting postcards out. I mean, would it be valuable for us as trustees to get that message out, or perhaps the message that the staff is getting out there, to relay that to our constituents? I mean, I certainly think it is, but have we thought about that too? Because it's a revenue generator for us, it seems.
I mean, just off the top of my head, if it's something that if you have a large listserv, if you want to tweet, you can always tweet links to our class schedule and try to encourage people to look at the class schedule and sign up for classes. Really anything that we can do to try to generate interest in coming to college, so.
Thank you.
The strategy of chasing FTES, though, is not always the best strategy, because people say, well, we just have more courses, more FTES, we'll get more money, is not really a fair statement.
Right.
And it rolls you over into, that word called efficiency, and that's a whole other area as well. So I just
Right.
caution people when they say, let's chase FTES, and because, as you said, not just many districts especially in urban settings are having the same dilemma of less high school students pool, and it's a fact of life for most of the districts in the state of California, community colleges. So anyway, there's other ways to look at this as well, but the bottom line is we're in stabilization. And as you said, I thought there was actually going to climb up. A few other districts were thinking about going to stabilization as well, but no matter what, it's an unprecedented number, as you mentioned.
Well, I think once we see the final FTES reports that are filed in July, there could be more districts that are in stabilization. There's an incentive to not show that you're in stabilization at P2 because you get more cash up front. You get more money for lottery up front. You get more money based upon your scheduled maintenance because that allocation is based upon your P2. So, there are several reasons why districts will not show that they're in stabilization at P2 to help with funding on the categorical side. So it's a method that we can use to try to get more money elsewhere, and knowing that we have time with the annual report to show what we actually generated.
How do we
Dr. Long.
Oh, sorry.
Sir.
I just want to comment that, you asked the question and you made a comment about chasing FTS. We are up this summer from last summer. That's a very powerful thing to be able to claim. We have been incredibly strategic with our marketing, working with John, working with the deans, working with counseling and student support services. We really have been all in on this effort. We sent postcards to every single household in Long Beach to advertise summer. We sent the 12-page summer mailer out. We now have sent a postcard to all the students enrolled in spring to ask them to remember to enroll in fall because registration starts in July. So I just want to say that we seriously have 100% focused on our students and what courses they need to succeed, not adding courses that we know will fill just for the sake of filling them. So we really have, Greg and I and the deans and John's group have worked every single day as hard as we could to get the students here, and we did a really good job. So I would just like to say to my team and to John and to the faculty and the department heads and the clerical staff who have been adding classes as quickly as we could based on need, that we really did make a huge effort, and we have a really good, robust summer this summer, and I'm very proud of what everybody has done. It does look like we're going to fall short, but it's not because we didn't try, and it's not because we weren't really strategic in scheduling the courses that we know our students need.
Right, and I think, I hope I didn't come across as though there's something wrong that you were doing. I'm confident that we're doing everything humanly possible to attract students for the right reason and make sure we retain them. But I was merely trying to find out how we can support our staff because, as we're partners, this is a community effort to get out the word, but make sure it's in line with the messaging and consistent with what our district is putting out, merely as a means of support.
Trustee Archuleta.
Any students you can send to us, Sunny, we would greatly appreciate.
I always recruit. I'm always on recruitment mode.
Trustee Archuleta.
Well, actually,
Terry already answered the question. I was going to ask, how do we compare against last summer? Because that's, to me, is the comparison, is how do we do it? And you've already said, we are stronger more robust this summer than we were last summer.
We're up about 300 FTESs from last summer, so that's significant in terms of our efforts, particularly as Anne-Marie said, a lot of districts are down just in general, so it was a very positive, good effort on our part to be showing more FTS this summer.
So,
Go ahead.
So are we using summer enrollment at the trail end, or are we pushing it forward?
We will be pushing it forward.
it
So
forward.
we were
That's
trying
good.
to see if we could make our base, if we could reach the 20,775 with summer. So if we could have, we would have claimed all of that and then gone into stabilization in 16, 17. Since it doesn't look like we're going to generate enough in summer, we won't claim any of our summer, and it'll all go into 16, 17.
Right. And just to give you very quickly the report from around the state, in Northern California, particularly very Northern California, they're getting killed. Nobody's enrolling, and it's frightening. They're all, we fund by growth and COLA, basically, and all the northern counties are not getting any students. The Central Valley, with the exception of State Center, are not getting any FTES, and there are pockets in Southern California where there's growth, and they like that, and they're everybody wants to have that, so you can't sort of say no. But other than that, for things largely beyond our control, given the way we fund things, it creates a problem for us. So we're not in this alone.